you, Mr. Balderas. Ms. Perdue, welcome. Introduce yourself. Give us your testimony.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Jim Perdue, Jr. I'm a lawyer in Houston, Texas. I've been practicing some 31 years. I was the past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. I had the pleasure of appearing in front of many of you in the 2021 session. Thank you for having me back. Let me begin by saying, with the fundamental proposition, I think there are people on either side of this bill who can be described as well-intentioned. I don't think that some of the observations regarding medical billing evidence you're going to hear from me on today anyway, but I understand some of those concerns. I understand that industry brings to this body concerns regarding certain aspects, but we have heard anecdotal stories regarding an insurance marketplace across all lines of insurance, depending on which committees you're serving on this session, in both houses regarding the affordability and access issues for insurance across all lines, because it's a nationwide issue. Nothing in this bill specific to my comments today regarding the redefinition of non-economic damages has anywhere ever affected insurance availability or insurance affordability. What this bill represents in Section 3, it's really Section 2 of the areas to discuss today, but Section 3 of the bill itself, is an effort to use a few definitions within Chapter 41 of the Texas Civil Practice and Remedies Code, which was drafted, I will say, in 2003 as part of HB 4 by TLR in part of the big bill. So the definition of non-economic damages that exist in Chapter 41, 111 of non-economic damages was written by TLR in 2003. What is occurring in the bill today is to take the list of non-economic damages that have been recognized in the Anglo-American jurisprudence system of common law from the time that the Magna Carta moved through civil law in Europe and came over to our American history. The definition of damages when it comes to civil accountability, which evolves because that's what the common law does. But that tradition which has been honored of the courts looking at those things, changing the definitions, writing those definitions through case law and putting the parameters on them have led to, as Mr. Walker said, essentially 6 areas of non-economic damages which have been recognized and I will say have been validated by the Texas Supreme Court and a unanimous 9 Republican-member Texas Supreme Court over and over again. And in fact, one of the redefinitions would repeal a Texas Supreme Court opinion written by Justice Priscilla Owen, who went on to become chief of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, joined by Chief Justice Hecht, joined by Chief Justice Phillips, that tried to give common law parameters to these definitions of non-economic damages. And this bill repeals that case by the Texas Supreme Court from 2003 and redefines, fundamentally redefines, the way we look at and understand non-economic damages to be. And then, Mr. Chairman, in the redefinition, because of the way they've redefined 2 areas of non-economic damages, that the world of non-economic damages that recognizes human pain and suffering and loss of a loved one and the care and support they provide, and physical impairment for someone who is an amputee, who you may hear from today, and recognize the change that that affects in their life, and the mental anguish that is associated with bearing a child or suffering an injury for which there is no recovery. Those things have been recognized for over 100 years in the state of Texas as elements of damages that are subject to recovery. But this is a question of, they keep suggesting that there is essentially an attempt to write into the law, current law. The redefinition as exists in 11A, page 6 of the bill, does something that is noticeably incongruent with current law, Mr. Chairman. So they take a definition of mental and emotional pain or anguish, and they add grievous or debilitating angst, distress, torment, or emotional suffering. And then, in a clever fashion, they add causes a substantial disruption in a person's daily routine, and then add a conjunctive and. That is, that it must be two things to qualify. That's a cap of 0 on a rape victim. That's a cap of 0 on a parent who has buried a child for mental anguish. And therefore, we respectfully oppose the bill. I welcome any questions.